Hello, guys and gals, and welcome. So I got something freaking cool today. Lucky Luciano was apparently gifted a preview of patch 2.7. We don't actually have the full notes, but we do have his preview, which is pretty darn cool. And we're going to go over his preview together. So there's a lot of information here in such a small little package. tiny little package, but we have a lot of information in this tiny little package. So first off, good news for everybody. Players will now have 4 additional character slots across all online modes. So 4 additional character slots. I will rejoice from the rooftops. I don't have to delete a character this season. I would like more than 4. Little did they know that all they were doing was feeding the endless beast, the beast of endless hunger. But, you know, I digress. I will take whatever slots they are willing to give us. That is the fact. I will not complain, Sam I am. I will ask for more, though. Even though they give us character slots, I will ask for more character slots. On top of those character slots that they gave us, I will ask for more character slots. So this isn't really one of the big changes, but I'm sure everyone... This is my Italian cam, by the way. This is my hand cam, so you guys can really, really feel the emotion coming from my hands. You can just feel it. No, I'm just kidding. It's a Kubus cam. That's Kubus, the monster dog over there. There you go. See, I said his name. He popped up. Mr. Boobus. That's right. That's a good boy sitting on the bed. That's the goodest. That's the goodest. All right, so we got more changes than just that. Now, we don't really have the whole patch notes, so don't get, like, disappointed in this, all right? But the change that they did give us is freaking ridiculous, okay? And we're going to have to go over it. This is going to take some time, so you might as well get some popcorn, because we're going to be playing around with the mental gymnastics of this change for quite some time. So the second update is that the next hit delay system now only applies to missiles created by casting the same skill. So what does this mean? What does this mean for us? You know, like as a freaking like game. It's not just something that affects the assassin, by the way, although some people have been apt to point out that it does in fact buff up the assassin. So the assassin is going to see quite a bit of a boof in damage from this. It's going to change the way that the assassin works. But it's also going to change the way quite a few characters work, and I'm going to go to one of my favorite websites here, which is Amazon Basin, and we're going to explore this real quick. There's more, obviously, by the way, but let's go over this part first. So basically, how it worked in the past, if you guys were unaware, is that next hit delay would completely cancel out any abilities cast on the same target within that same time frame. So, for instance, with... let's find the list here. So with the Druid, let's take the Druid because it's the standout character. Druid has a 25 frame delay on Twister. It also has a 25 frame delay on Tornado and a 10 frame delay on Volcano, which means that if you used any of these abilities together, like if Twister were to hit a target, Tornado would not hit that target. Okay, so Twister and Tornado can't hit the same target within the same second. And this causes a huge issue in like how the damage actually calculates out. And not really the greatest. So basically what this does now is that Tornado will now only interfere with itself. Twister will now only interfere with itself. Volcano will now only interfere with itself, so forth and so on. Which is actually a really big buff to all next hit delay abilities. So now you don't have to worry about, like for instance, with the Assassin has Phoenix Strike, Claws of Thunder, Wake of Fire, Blade Sentinel, Shockweb. None of these could be used in concert together because they would interfere with each other. Claws of Thunder, for instance, would interfere with Phoenix Strike, and so the two abilities were basically mutually exclusive, like you could not use them together. Now you actually can use Phoenix Strike and Claws of Thunder together. But this also means that Claws of Thunder is also still interfering with itself because basically what the message said was that only abilities that only the actual ability cast by the ability can interfere with itself. So basically, a tornado can interfere with another tornado, but a tornado will not interfere with another twister. So in this particular situation, Phoenix Strike will no longer interfere with Claws of Thunder, but Claws of Thunder can still interfere with itself, at least from what I'm seeing. Now we're gonna have to test this out. This is gonna take some doing. We're gonna have to hop on to 2.7 when it launches, and we're gonna have to test this stuff out and see what the hell is going on with this. And that's not all that's on the preview, by the way. But we're gonna play around with this a little bit more. So each martial arts charge up skill trigger is treated as a different cast of a skill for next hit delay purposes. So this one is, let's see, each charge up skill. So basically what this means is that if you have a charge up number 1 and a charge up number 2, they're going to be treated differently as far as next hit delay is concerned. So anything that comes from charge up 1 will interfere with charge up 1, and anything that comes from charge up 2 will interfere with charge up 2, but 2 will not interfere with 1, and 1 will not interfere with 2. I know, it's kind of confusing. But essentially what this means is that the entire dynamic for the martial arts assassin or the mosaic assassin has completely changed. So the mosaic assassin, like optimal build, has now become something completely different. Like you could roll Phoenix Chain Lightning or Phoenix Chaos Ice Bolt, or maybe even Phoenix Meteor with Claws of Thunder and Blades of Ice together, like all three of them, and it would still dish out massive amounts of damage, which means that the Mosaic Sin has actually gotten better. Has actually gotten a lot better than it was before. In fact, you know what? Let's bring up Diablo 2 real quick, and let's actually have a visual aid so we can talk about this while we're, or have something to look at while we're talking about it. All right. Sorry, this like information just popped up on my desk, like I'm some sort of like worker. It just popped up on my desk, so I'm literally just getting it now. So I had to hop on here as quick as possible, of course. All right, so let's pull up a assassin. Here's my pyrotechnic. I think she's been mildly stripped of her equipment, but she should be fine. All right. So Claws of Thunder. Need to move myself out of the way so you guys can actually see the skills as I'm showing them off. Let me flip myself to the other side of the screen, shall I? Oh no, Boobus the monster dog is over there. Boop. There you go. I can hide behind Boobus the monster dog. Just barely peeking from existence. That's right. Just barely peeking from existence. Alright, so Claws of Thunder has 2 attacks. Or rather, actually 3 charges, technically. But 2 of the charges are actually under next hit delay. So the Nova damage from Claws of Thunder and the charged bolt from Claws of Thunder is under next hit delay. These 2 abilities used to interfere with each other, so now Claws of Thunder has actually gotten a buff that it no longer interferes with itself. So Charge 2 and Charge 3 are going to be treated as different monsters, essentially, as the next hit delay calculations goes. So Charge Bolt can still interfere with itself, so a target will not be able to be hit by multiple charged bolts from the same attack or multiple attacks within the next hit delay. Nova will not be able to hit the target more than a certain number of times within that next hit delay. But Nova will now no longer interfere with Charge Bolt, and Charge Bolt will now no longer interfere with Nova, which is a really good change. Blades of Ice is the same, never had a next hit delay problem, so it doesn't, no changes there. Phoenix Strike did have an X hit delay problem. Chain Lightning and Chaos Ice Bolt both would interfere with each other. Now, when you're using Mosaic, you're only using one charge as opposed to all of the charges. So it's not that big of a deal when you're doing the Mosaic Assassin. However, if you're not using a Mosaic Assassin, if you're just leveling up the Assassin and you're just trying to get the most out of that particular character, when you would build up 3 charges of Phoenix and you would unleash them all at the same time, the Chaos Ice Bolt and the Chain Lightning would actually interfere with each other, and it lowered the overall damage output of the skill. So Phoenix Strike has now changed, and the next hit delay system is in its favor. Fist of Fire, I don't believe ever had any next hit delay problems. Its problems are completely different in the way that it converts physical damage to fire damage and annihilates your ability to steal life. So I don't think Fist of Fire is going to be coming back with this change. It's just still going to be kind of like left in the dust. But yes, Phoenix Strike is going to get a pretty serious buff from this, and Claws of Thunder will get a very serious buff from this. So if you have a Claws of Thunder build at this particular point, yes, you are going to see some pretty significant damage increases. To tell you exactly how much damage increases, maybe we can go to one of my offline characters here. I do believe I have a theory crafted Phoenix Sin set up in offline. What was her name? I think I just did Test Assassin. We don't have the full patch notes, guys. We only have a preview of the patch notes, courtesy of Lucky Luciano. I don't know if there's going to be more previews of the patch notes coming. You know, maybe from other creators. Maybe that's how they're doing the patch notes. They're just going to hand out like little pieces of the patch notes to various people. But Lucky Luciano was the one that had these particular patch notes up. All right, so let's look at Claws of Thunder and let's calculate this out, shall we? So let me pull up a calculator. So before the patch, the next hit delay issue, the main problem is that the Nova damage would be the main damage at 4,823. Okay, Nova hits everything within the circle. Like it is guaranteed basically to hit everything within the circle. That's the entire beauty of Nova. So anything within that circle would only take 4,823 damage. It would never get hit by the charged bolt, and the only things that would get hit by the charged bolt were to be the things outside of the Nova circle. And as you guys know, Nova circle is actually pretty big. So very few monsters actually got ever hit by the charged bolt. But now that the charged bolt is on a separate next hit delay from the Nova, now we're looking at 4,823 plus 7,644. Which means that we technically have a damage output of 12,467 from Claws of Thunder, if it works the way that it should, which it looks like it is. So utilizing Claws of Thunder in the build, things actually change for the optimal setup, and we can kind of figure out what the optimal setup is for a Mosaic Sin, even without it, but it will require a little bit of testing. But as you can see, Chain Lightning does 12,744 on its own. Which means that you could technically, since Chain Lightning is now no longer interfering with Claws of Thunder, you could technically set up a Lightning Sin. So what you would do is you would run Charge 2 Phoenix Strike, then you would also run Claws of Thunder, and then you would run things like Griffin's Eye Diadem, Lightning Facets maybe in your armor, maybe even a Infinity Mercenary if you wanted to. The purpose being to break the lightning immunities. You're running a Lightning Sunder, of course. Probably still bring in Blades of Ice, because Blades of Ice is just ridiculously good for locking down targets. And then, so it would probably be something like Charge 2 Phoenix, Charge 3 Claws of Thunder, Charge 3 Blades of Ice, and then it would be a tussle between Tiger Strike and Cobra Strike, depending on how you want it to go. Cobra Strike would obviously be survivability, and Tiger Strike would be damage, but this would equal the highest damage output between these three, because you would be getting 1270. So you get 12,476 from the Claws of Thunder. You would get 12,744 12,744 from the lightning on the Phoenix Strike. Then you would also get the 4,685 from the Blades of Ice. And this is per 0.4 seconds, okay? So 0.4 seconds is... let's see here. We need to actually multiply this, so give me just a second. So 25 divided by 4 is a total of 6.25 attacks per second. So we are looking at 29,896 times 6.25 would equal a total damage output of 186,850, which is pretty darn insane, to be honest. Per second. That's per second. Not per not per attack, but per second. I think that far exceeds what I'm currently capable of. Lucky Luciano put out the preview, and I've already said his name like 16 times. But if you check his channel, he has a video going over the notes, or the little tiny notes. It's a preview of notes. It's not even notes. It's a preview of notes. All right, so let's compare this to my current damage. And let's see, like what kind of difference it is in my current damage. How much that goes up by. So we're gonna take this off the screen. And so current damage with the next hit delay changes is 186,850 per second. All right. Per attack, it is 29,896. So per attack, 29k. You roughly round that up to 30k per second. 186,000. So let's run the damage numbers on what I was currently getting, and let's take a look at it. So we can't really calculate out the physical as much, but we could add that in there. It really depends on whether you want to add the physical in or not. There was really no next hit delay issue with the physical anyway, so that pretty much is just going to stay the same. So let's just calculate out the elemental damage. So my elemental damage from before was the 12,744. And then it was the Blades of Ice, which is 4,685. I had to type it in wrong. Alright, so we've got 17,429. Of course, I couldn't use the Claws of Thunder at all. Fist of Fire was out. So basically, I was just using Tiger Strike and Cobra Strike. So the Tiger Strike would be the same damage output as it would be on both modes, so there's no really reason to calculate that. However, I do get to use Cobra Strike no matter what. So if in the other mode, if you are doing the new next hit delay calculations, Phoenix Strike, Blades of Ice, and Claws of Thunder together mean that you're only going to be able to use one other charge-up skill, so you're going to have to choose between Cobra and Tiger Strike. So in the previous iteration, I didn't have to choose between Tiger and Cobra Strike. I actually could use both. But in this one, you're not going to be able to use both. So it's going to be 17,429, which is going to give us 22,144 damage. Did I do those calculations correct? Because this doesn't seem right here. $12,744 plus. Let's run this one more time because I think something's wrong. 12,744 plus 4685. Yeah, so 17,429. And then we multiply that by 6.25 before per attack per second. Let's write all this down real quick so we can get an idea. And then 6.25, which is the number of attacks per second. So we're looking at 108,931. So the difference in damage output is over about 80. It's almost 80,000 damage increase per second. The other thing that's kind of really the big difference here that we need to think of besides just simply the damage going up is that Claws of Thunder is kind of insane in terms of like how it actually functions. So let me go over here and pull up Claws of Thunder real quick, and we're gonna mess around with this. Actually, this side. So I just want to show you guys like how this ability works, to kind of like let you understand just how ludicrous this is going to be. So you see how the Novas come out and literally hit everything within that frame of reference? And the charged bolts come out and hit everything within that frame of reference. Like, it's literally so many charged bolts, so many Novas, that everything within that radius is just going to get nuked into oblivion. Everything within the radius is going to die. It's not just a matter of, hey, I'm doing this amount of damage. Like, Claws of Thunder has always been an amazing skill as far as coverage goes. It hits everything. Like, it doesn't care, like, what is around you or, like, where they're standing. Like, it basically just hits everything around you in a circle. And, so it's not just a matter of... It's not just a matter of a damage bump. Yes, there is an obvious damage bump here, but it's also a matter of a huge increase in the amount of AoE damage that you can perform. So you're going to be able to put out some absolutely insane AoE damage. Just to give you an idea of what it looks like, let's go take a look at what a full Phoenix Sin charge up would look like. So under the new system, which is the next hit delay changes. And if you guys haven't seen the next hit delay changes, let me pull these up on the screen here real quick for you. I know I've been going for a little while. So this is the preview that we got. And in the preview, we basically have been told there's going to be 4 additional character slots. We also have the next hit delay system is only going to apply to missiles created by the same skill. And then also martial arts assassin skills specifically. Each charge up is going to be considered a different skill for next hit delay purposes. So when it comes to charge ups, specifically they are talking about like each individual charge up of the ability. There's also some little developer notes at the bottom that say we have revised next hit delay to become an easier concept to grasp while still maintaining its original design goals. This change will alleviate some headaches in multiplayer and smooth the edges of certain character builds. So what do they mean by smooth the edges in multiplayer? What do they mean is, well, what they mean is that, yes, if there was an assassin in your group before, and they were spamming Claws of Thunder, or they were spamming Phoenix Strike, or they were spamming, I believe, even Meteor, the Meteor and the Chaos Ice Bolt, or if you had a Druid in your group who was spamming Tornadoes, or you had a Sorceress who was spamming Chain Lightning. If you had any character that was using a next hit delay ability, it would interfere with other next hit delay abilities. So basically how this works now is that you can have a assassin with Claws of Thunder in the group, and it will not cancel the next hit delay from another ability. This also will have some repercussions in PvP as well, because in PvP, you may have been hit recently by like a tornado, for instance. And when you get hit by a tornado, the next hit delay on tornado is 1 full second. So if we go back to the list, sorry about your eyes there, guys. We go back to the list, you'll see that Druid's Tornado and Twister are both on a next hit delay of 25. Okay? This means that Twister can now hit you after Tornado has hit you. So before, if you had just recently been hit by Tornado, you could not be hit by Twister afterwards. Now, you can be hit by the Tornado and the Twister at the same time. 25 frame hit delay is 1 full second, by the way. So this is going to have some pretty crazy connotations in PvP as well, because there's not going to be any next hit delay essentially transferring between skills. So the Druid has gotten a buff in terms of PvP. The Assassin, little bit. Shockweb and Blade Sentinel. Shockweb is one of those ones that had a 25-second next hit delay, and it was actually pretty bad to use it in PvP because it would actually cause a next hit delay on other abilities, especially if you were doing some sort of like team duel or something like that, because if you use Shockweb, it would make them immune, for instance, to Tornado. So once they got hit by the Shockweb, they would become immune to Tornado for that 25-second next frame hit delay. Now, Shockweb will no longer make a player immune to Tornado for 25 frames. Instead, they can be hit by Shockweb and Tornado at the same time. This change is absolutely massive, by the way. Chain Lightning is a big one for the Sorceress and other characters that use Chain Lightning. Chain Lightning has an X hit delay of 4. But the problem with Chain Lightning is that, well, you can spam the ever-loving crap out of it, and you can literally hit everything on the screen with Chain Lightning at the same time, which puts everything into a next hit delay. Nova and Frost Nova also have next hit delays of 4. And this is actually pretty good as well for Nova, because what do we know about Nova Sorcs? They want to cast their Nova as fast as humanly possible, right? So they're spamming Novas. Well, while they're spamming Novas, anybody who has a next hit delay ability, Druids with Tornadoes and Twisters or Volcanoes, Necromancers with Poison Nova, freaking like Assassins with any of their abilities listed here, Amazons with Multi-Shot, Strafe, or Lightning Strike. None of these abilities can touch the monster while they are locked in a next hit delay effect. So it causes a lot of headaches when it comes to multiplayer, because these characters have issues interchanging and connecting their damage types. Because even an Amazon firing Multi-Shot or Strafe would have an issue hitting targets that were under the next hit delay of, say, for instance, Tornado. So once a Druid hit something with Tornado, that monster was stuck in a next hit delay for 25 seconds, and the Amazon cannot touch it with Multi-Shot or Strafe for 25 frames, which is 1 full second. So the monster is essentially immune to Multi-Shot and Strafe for 1 full second. This change makes it so that when the Druid hits it with a Tornado, the Amazon can still hit it with a Multi-Shot, which is absolutely great. Alright, so let's go over to take a look at this real quick. This is going to be kind of silly, but let's throw Claws of Thunders up here. We need Phoenix Strike, it's on A, and we need Blades of Ice. Alright, so we've got all 3 that we need. It's going to look a lot like this, so let's get these charges built up. So 3 charges, 3 charges, 2 charges. So it's going to look like this. And that's going to be more of what the optimal setup is going to be now. I'm pretty sure this is Players 8, because I've been doing P8 solo self-founds. If you haven't checked out my P8 solo self-founds, you should, because they've been amazing so far. Oh, wow, a Sacred Armor. 1 socket. Now, here's the problem with this right now. So right now, the next hit delay fix has not been implemented. And what this means is that Phoenix Strike and Claws of Thunder are directly in opposition to each other, and they are interfering. So I'm not actually getting the damage of both of these skills. They're actually causing me to lose damage right now. So the 12,744 that's coming from Phoenix Strike is actually getting nerfed by the 4,823 that's coming from Claws of Thunder. Claws of Thunder is actually bringing Phoenix Strike down and causing me to do less damage in this particular situation. Much, much less. And it's actually pretty bad. But with the change, I'll be able to utilize Claws of Thunder and Phoenix Strike together and get even more damage output. So what you just saw wasn't even the damage output that we're going to be getting. The damage output we're going to be getting with the patch is going to be far greater than that. So yes, it will apply to Fire Druid, but Fire Druid doesn't have a whole lot on that list. If you take a look at Fire Druid, the only thing he has is Volcano. Volcano does interfere with itself. The next hit delay from Volcano does interfere with itself, but there's no change to that. So they haven't made it so that an ability won't interfere with itself. So the change doesn't take away next hit delay, and it doesn't make it not affect itself. So Tornado will still interfere with itself. Twister will still interfere with itself. Volcano will still interfere with itself, and so forth and so on. And that's fine because that's how they want it. But the problem with this is that in the past, Tornado also interfered with Twister, and Twister also interfered with Tornado. And so if you were a Druid, specifically a Hurricane Druid, you would have a pretty big issue using your Tornadoes and Twisters at the same time, which is a little nasty. But now you can feel free in the next patch to utilize your Tornado and Twisters at the same time. Also, as a Volcano Druid, which is a pretty powerful Druid, by the way, yes, it has a 10 next hit delay, but you were also interfering with everybody else when you were using Volcano, too, because 10 next hit delay is kind of long. So anybody else, like an Amazon, an Assassin, a freaking, like a Sorceress using Chain Lightning or anything else was also getting interfered with by you, and you were also getting interfered with by them. So if there was a Nova Sorceress or a multi-shot, Amazon or something like that, and you're rolling with them, Volcano was actually doing less damage for every other person that was causing the next hit delay problem to activate. Fissure does not have a next hit delay. Fissure never has had a next hit delay. Fissure is actually really powerful. There's actually a couple different builds for Fissure. Where is the... Trying to remember here. Honestly, there's not much more in here besides just the next hit delay. But let's go take a look at a Druid real quick, just for the fun of it. What's up, Vian? I haven't really played a lot of PD2, man. So basically how it's going to work now is Volcano will not interfere with anything else. So you could potentially use this with other next hit delay abilities, and you can feel free to use it within, obviously, group play. Multiplayer is really the big boon here. A lot of people might not recognize this as a big buff, but anytime you're playing with a group, anytime you're playing with 7 other people, or anything, like, you are going to be able to spam these abilities in concert, like, over and over and over and over and over again. I'm pretty sure Fissure does not have a next 5-frame hit delay. I've never heard anything about Fissure having next hit delay, In fact, I've always been told that the best way to do a volcano druid is literally to spam fissure in between every volcano, because it's literally the best way to get your damage output, because volcano has an X hit delay, and spamming multiple volcanoes doesn't help because of the 10 frame next hit delay on volcano. You can't really spam it, so you can put like 1 or 2 volcanoes underneath of somebody's butt, but at a certain point the damage peters out, and then what you do is you put a fissure underneath them as well, and the fissure does damage alongside the volcano. My understanding was fissure was always supposed to be used alongside a volcano, specifically because of volcano's next hit delay. But even if fissure has the next hit delay, even if it does, it no longer interferes with volcano, if it ever did. I trust Amazon Basin, and Amazon Basin doesn't have it listed there. There's also another website that I go to. It's been a little while, but it's probably still up. This one was actually a little bit more advanced than the others. See if I can pull up this other one. This one actually pulls from the files, and it shows you all of the individual next hit delay calculations. Yeah, here it is. So this is the one that I use for, because it has the actual information listed in the files. So over here is the next hit delay, right? But over here is the information in the files, which lists every single individual missile and what the next hit delay is on those missiles. And as you can see, we've got Tornado 25, Twister 25, Blade Creeper, Shock Field on Ground, which is specifically talking about the Assassin's Shock Field. Bale's attacks have next hit delay. The Death Mauler Volcano has a 10. The Grimwood Ward Scare has a 6. Warcry has a 6. Volcano Small Fire has a 5. So the small fire that is created from the volcano also has next hit delay. So according to this, the volcano and the volcano fire will no longer interfere with each other. Because remember what it said, is it said that individual attacks within the thing, we'll have to test it, of course. We're going to test it. But it says individual attacks within a skill will be treated as separate. So hopefully this means that volcano and volcano small fire are treated as separate attacks. And these two particular attacks will no longer interfere with each other, but we don't know. Eruption Crack 2 and Eruption Crack 1. I'm not exactly sure what the hell these are. I mean, that could be fissure. I would think that it would say fissure. Most of these actually say what they are. Eruption Crack 1 and Eruption Crack 2. Well, if that's fissure, then fissure no longer interferes with volcano either. So that should be interesting. We also have Strafe Bolt, Strafe Arrow, Mephisto, Frost Nova, Trap Nova, Viper Cloud, Lightning, Wear Nova, Bale Cold Trail, Bale Marker, Royal Chaos, Royal Chain Lightning. These are the Phoenix Strike. Those are Phoenix Strike. Claws of Thunder Nova, Claws of Thunder Bolt. Those are obviously the Claws of Thunder ability, as it says. Bale Nova, Bale Inferno, and for some reason Bale's Inferno had an exit delay on it. Chain Lightning Charge Up, Lightning Charge Up Nova, Wake of Destruction Marker. We also have the Shockwave from the Bear. The Bear Shockwave interfered with other things as well. Chain Lightning has always had a next hit delay. Dragon Breath Missile, Battle Command, Fist of the Heavens Bolt. Of course, Fist of the Heavens Bolt was changed. That's no longer a thing. That was taken out back in like patch 2.4. Lightning Strike, Battle Cry, Multi-Shot Bolt, Multi-Arrow, Nova, Nova 1. Diablo Fire, Poison Nova, Frost Nova, Teeth, Chain Lightning Nova, Cold Unique. So basically, what's the most important thing here, though, is that none of these abilities, none of them, will interfere with the others anymore. So they're all unique and separate at this particular point. Now, what this does mean, unfortunately, is it also has, it's also a, what's the term? It's also a buff for the monsters. So I'm not sure if you guys have realized this, but going through this list, we see a lot of monster attacks, Bale's attacks, right? We also see Death Maulers. We've got like various things like the Blade Creeper, which I'm not exactly sure what the hell, which one that one is. That one might be an assassin skill. But we also have Bale's Nova, Bale's Inferno Nova. We've got Wake of Destruction. That's the assassin trap. Dragon Breath Missile. Not quite sure what that one is. The traps. Diablo Fire. Diablo Fire is on an exit delay. There's quite a few abilities that are on exit delays that are monster abilities, which means that now the monster abilities are no longer going to get interfered with by other monster abilities. So, you know, like, let's say, for instance, Bale had just hit you with an Inferno and then tries to hit you with an Nova directly afterward. The two abilities would cancel each other out. Now they're no longer going to cancel each other out. So the Inferno and the Nova are always going to hit you no matter what. So if he just does a Nova and he hits you with an Inferno right afterward, it is definitely going to hit you. Patch notes. There are no patch notes. We have a patch preview that was posted by Lucky Luciano. And as far as I know, there's no more information on this. I've been kind of looking to see if maybe there's been any other patch previews posted. My thinking on this was that perhaps they had like a couple people post the information. But so far, it's only been Lucky Luciano posting anything. And, I mean, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to, like, right now, I'm just going to hop around and see if anybody else has posted anything. So, let's see. We got Lucky Luciano posted about 55 minutes ago on this. So I actually caught this, like, right when he posted it, which was pretty lucky for me. Let's take a look at a couple other notable Diablo partners. So it has to be a Diablo partner, by the way. So let's see if Mr. Llama has anything posted on his page. I see nothing tweeted and no recent replies, although we can also check his YouTube page just in case. And we have a video from 4 hours ago that is Riker calling hardcore players noobs or something. I don't know. It's not. I don't think that's what we're looking for here. I could also take a look on Twitch, and we can see if anybody's on Twitch looking at stuff. So let's go to... I mean, there's a couple different partners, but it doesn't look like he is... Is he live? Oh, God. That was not what I wanted at all. So he's not live right now at all either. So that's a no. So Llama doesn't have anything up. Trying to think of some of the other Diablo partners. I know Trix is one of the Diablo partners. I don't know if she has anything posted on her page, but we can always check and see. I'm assuming that they gave these specifically to the Diablo partners. That's my assumption. And taking a look at the Diablo partner list, I don't see anything else popped up here. Lucky Luciano even used the Diablo partner hashtag in his post when he made it. So, and there doesn't seem to be a whole lot else here. Yep, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't want to trash on hardcore players either. Like it's not really something that I enjoy doing or anything. But I am gonna say this, okay? Hardcore requires you to play the game like a coward. Like, and I hate to say it that way, but that's really just like the way that it needs to be said. Hardcore requires you to play the game like a coward. Like if you play the game as you would normally play it, you're gonna die. And so, like, and that's what always makes me laugh when people come in and they're like, "Good thing it's not hardcore," and then they giggle, right? And I'm like, no, like, because I wouldn't die in hardcore. I would play like a coward in hardcore. I would have much more resistances. I would have much more physical damage reduction. I would have much more magic damage reduction. I would have, I would have my character set up a different way. I wouldn't play this way in hardcore. Like, I'm not going to play exactly the same as I play in softcore on hardcore. I'm not going to build glass cannons. I'm going to build a freaking literal Sherman tank. And then I'm going to run around and nothing's going to be able to touch me. Like, you play slower. You play safer. You play like a coward. Hardcore requires you to play like a coward. In my personal opinion, my solo self-found runs are far more difficult than hardcore. Like, when I do my solo self-found P8 runs, those things are way more difficult. Trying to see here. So, like, it's basically what, according to the next hit delay, is saying. The fire... Let's pull this back up again. So the fire from the volcano and the volcano itself both have a next hit delay. So volcano has a next hit delay of 10, and the volcano small fire has a next hit delay of 5, which means that the volcano was interfering with itself before. I was unaware that volcano actually had 2 separate next hit delay issues. So not just one, but 2 separate next hit delay issues. Sounds like the fire druid has gotten quite the buff with this particular patch. I might have to do a fire druid for my season 4 starter. That should be really fun. This particular information that they've given me is very interesting as far as maybe doing a fire druid starter. So fissure apparently has 2 different cracks though. Why does it got 2 cracks? You know, my mama always told me that 1 crack was enough. That you didn't need 2 cracks. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You don't need 2 cracks, man. 2 cracks just makes things more messy. I wonder if we can delve into this more. Let's see if we can find out some more information. I mean, according to the notes... Now, I don't know if this changes for everything, but according to the notes, it's basically saying that... Will you work? Do your thing. All right. Click button. Let's pull the notes back up here real quick. I'm going to resize these, by the way, so they actually fit on the screen. You might not be able to read them as well, but I've already showed them on the screen several times in their inflated form, so I think we'll be all right. So this is the patch notes that was given to Lucky Luciano right here. It's a very small little image. He didn't really have anything else as far as I could tell. But basically... It does say that each martial arts charge-up skill trigger is treated as a different cast of a skill for next hit delay purposes. Now, I don't know if that actually applies to like skills like Volcano. I doubt it does. But the next hit delay system now applies only applies to missiles created by casting the same skill. So the assumption here would be that Volcano is still interfering with itself. And apparently, Fissure is still interfering with itself. But that Fissure and Volcano will no longer be interfering with each other. Which is good. That means that the Volcano and the Fissure, the Volcano / Fissure Druid, should be able to dish out a hell of a lot more damage. And also in multiplayer, and this is important, in multiplayer, Volcano will now no longer be interfering with everybody else. So 10-second next hit delay is pretty long. And if you had a Volcano Fissure Druid in the group, they'd be interfering with everybody else that had next hit delay abilities. So I could definitely see this as being a pretty strong negative as far as that goes. The real big bonus here, though, as far as I'm concerned, is the the Tornado and the Twister. So Twister's always been an amazing ability, and being able to spam a stun like that is extremely useful to a caster type. But the fact that it interfered with Tornado was a big issue. Now you can spam your Tornado and your Twister willy-nilly all you want, and it's not going to be a big deal. But the other big issue with Tornado and Twister, or rather the Hurricane Druid in general, was that the Tornado and the Twisters have a 25 frame next hit delay, which means that they were interfering with everybody else. So, like, let's take a theoretical example, okay? Let's pretend for a second you had a Fire Druid and a Tornado Druid, a Hurricane Druid in the same group. All right? And he's spamming his tornadoes and you're spamming your volcanoes. His tornado hits a target and you can't touch that target for 25 frames, which is 1 full second. And every single time his tornado touches a target, you can't touch the target for another 25 frames. Which just is nasty. It was absolutely nasty before. So this is going to change the way that the next hit delay abilities work entirely, which is absolutely amazing. We should probably even make a freaking video on next hit delay and talk about like the changes, because 2.7 is really gonna crazily change the way that next hit delay works. You know what? Let's do that. That sounds like fun. All right, so let's go ahead and record this live. I'm gonna play my intro. We're gonna pull up the patch notes. We're gonna talk about next hit delay, and we're going to talk about the way that it changes the dynamics of the game. And because I already have a next hit delay video up, by the way, and now this video is outdated at this particular point. No longer matters. All right, so here we go. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Hello, guys and gals, and welcome. A little frog in the throat there. And welcome. So today we got some patch note preview, not the full patch notes, but patch note preview from Lucky Luciano. And in the patch note preview, we got this. Basically, it goes over the fact that in 2.7, we're going to be looking at 4 additional character slots, which is nice. They also did a complete overhaul to the next hit delay system. Now, the next hit delay issues really kind of compounded and became crazy back into patch 2.6 when the Mosaic rune word was added for the Assassin. And as you can see here, there is a line specifically for the Assassin. So first off, let's go over what the change is, and then we're going to talk quickly about how this affects the game, and boy, does it affect the game. So first off, the next hit delay system now applies to missiles created by casting the same skill. Only applies to missiles created by the same skill. So what this means is that in the past, if you had 2 next hit delay abilities that were cast at the same time, and one of them hit the monster first, and then the other one hit the monster second, only the first next hit delay ability would have had any damage, and the second one would pass through that monster and do nothing. This meant that specific abilities that tended to compete for damage, as far as next hit delay was concerned, would often do next to nothing, or literally nothing, even abilities that had multiple next hit delay attempts within the same skill. Further, they also have said that martial art charge-up skills will be treated as a different case for every single charge. So what that means is that when you have, say for instance, Claws of Thunder has 2 next hit delay missiles within it. So each charge is considered a separate next hit delay event, and they will not interfere with each other. So the Nova charge, for instance, that has a 4-frame next hit delay, will still interfere with itself, but the second charge, which is the charged bolt charge, will not interfere with the Nova charge, and the Nova charge will not interfere with the charged bolt charge. So this has changed the way that the interdynamics of these skills work. And yes, if you're wondering, in the past, if you had an ability, for instance, like Volcano, that had a next hit delay, and somebody else used Tornado, it could potentially interfere with the damage between the two abilities. Now, I'm going to go over what these changes represent, and we're going to talk about this for a second because it is pretty massive in the scope of what it changes for the game, not only for the players, by the way, but also for the monsters. And this is where things get spicy. So first off, let's bring up a list of all of the next hit delay effects, and you may recognize this from my last next hit delay video, the one that is now outdated, because these changes have massively updated the way that next hit delay works. So first off, what we need to do is look at the list of abilities that are covered by next hit delay, and this is really the one that you want to pay attention to here, is this column, because this column right here goes over every single next hit delay event within the game. As you can see, Twister and Tornado are on here with 25 frames. So 25 frames is 1 full second. So if a skill has a 1 full second next hit delay, then that means that nothing else can damage that monster within that time period. However, the new changes have made it so that only the skill itself will interfere with the skill itself. So Tornado has a 25 frame next hit delay, but only interferes with itself, which is fine. Which means that now you can spam Twister and Tornado together and get optimal damage. But as you can see here, there's also skills in here that belong to monsters. So Bale's Inferno, Bale's Nova, Bale's Cold Maker, Bale's Cold Trail, these are all next hit delay events, and if they were spammed in concert, could dish out a massive amount of damage, depending on the order in which he spams them. And I've actually seen him spam these, like especially Uber Mephisto and Uber Bale and things like that. They tend to spam abilities pretty crazy. The Lightning Tower also has next hit delay. The Viper Cloud has next hit delay. The Trap Nova, Mephisto's Nova, so forth and so on. And all of this means that now the monsters will dish out more damage. So be prepared, potentially, for the monsters to dish out a lot more damage than they were doing before. And the reason why this is because, say, for instance, you had several monsters attack you at the same time with, I don't know, just let's use Chain Lightning as an example, because Chain Lightning has a 4-frame charge up. Let's say you had several different monsters attacking you with Chain Lightning, and then somebody else attacks you with another ability that has a next hit delay. Before, you would have been slightly insulated from multiple damage events of next hit delay. Now you're not going to be insulated from multiple damage events of next hit delay, because the Chain Lightning will now no longer protect you from another form of damage. Like, for instance, Multi-Shot. Multi-Shot is also on the list with a next hit frame delay of 4. So, for instance, let's say you had a monster there who had, like, the multiple shot mechanic, right? He's shooting multi-shot at you, which has a next hit frame hit delay of 4, right? So if you were to get hit by Chain Lightning, and then this comes in and hits you at the same time, you would only get hit by one event at any particular time. Now, with the changes, you're going to get hit by both. So expect to take a lot more damage. You hardcore players might want to be a little leery of specific encounters, especially Bale, because Bale has a huge number of next hit delay events, and his damage might shoot up with this change. Specifically, though, a lot of classes have seen some pretty big buffs. So, for instance, the Fire Druid has a next hit delay on Volcano, and there's actually a next hit delay on Fissure as well. So the two skills actually interfere with each other. These two skills now no longer interfere with each other with the patch note changes. And we're going to be testing all this out when the patch note comes. So do expect there to be a patch note testing day where we literally just sit here and have fun testing out these next hit delay mechanic changes. So, you know, be aware. But there's a lot of different abilities that are going to get updated by this. So let's go over the abilities that are going to be changed by the next hit delay buffs. So first off, Fissure and Volcano interfere with each other. This is a really big buff right here to the Fire Druid, and might actually make me want to play a Fire Druid this season. The Tornado and the Twister interfere with each other. So this is another big one right here. Tornado and Twister have always interfered with each other. We can go over to the Assassin. There's a lot of ones on the Assassin that we can look at. And the Assassin specifically, Charge 2 and Charge 3 of Phoenix Strike have always had next hit delay. Charge 2 and Charge 3 of Claws of Thunder have always had next hit delay, and they interfere with each other. So Claws of Thunder and Phoenix Strike have been rather mutually exclusive in the way that they dish out damage, so you never could use them together before. Also, Claws of Thunder actually interfered with itself. Charge 2 and Charge 3 would actually interfere with each other. And Phoenix Strike, Charge 2 and Charge 3 would actually interfere with each other. But that's only if you were using them the normal way, not the Mosaic way. However, now with the change, Claws of Thunder will now no longer interfere with itself because each charge is now counted as a separate next hit delay event. Phoenix Strike will no longer interfere with itself either and will no longer interfere with other abilities, which is absolutely great. So it's no longer going to interfere with everything else. So you can use Phoenix Strike and Claws of Thunder together in the new patch. Another one that's always interfered with other things, believe it or not, is Shockweb. Shockweb actually has a really long next hit delay for no reason. If you guys have never actually looked at this, if you take a look at the Assassin, you'll notice that Shockweb is right here with a next hit delay of 25, which made it absolutely terrible to use. It was actually a bad idea to use Shockweb because Shockweb would actually interfere with other abilities. If for a full second, when you touch something with Shockweb, for a full second after you touch it with Shockweb, they cannot be touched by any other damage type that's a next hit delay. So, like, let's say you were running an Assassin with a Druid who was also running, say, Volcano or Tornado or something like that, right? And you're spamming Shockweb on every single monster that came around. The Shockweb would actually cause that monster to not take damage from any other next hit delay event while the Shockweb was active, including Multi-Shot, Strafe, Lightning Strike, Claws of Thunder, Phoenix Strike, frickin' Battle Cry, Twister, Tornado, Volcano, Shockwave, frickin' Poison Nova. You literally, if you had Shockweb like stacked up underneath of a monster's feet, you could do absolutely nothing to that target with other next hit delay skills. And so that's actually pretty great now. Shockwave has been freed from its prison of silliness and can actually be used properly now. Blade Sentinel also. So Blade Sentinel is another one that had a next hit delay issue and would also cause next hit delay issues with other skills. So if you were using Blade Sentinel with like Wake of Fire, Shockweb, or any of the other abilities like Blades of Ice, Claws of Thunder, not Blades of Ice, sorry, Claws of Thunder or Phoenix Strike, you would have issues because Blade Sentinel would interfere with the damage from those as well. I don't believe Fire Blast has one, but we can check the list real quick. Sometimes it's not on this list, but if you check this list, you may find it. And I could have sworn that Fire Blast was on the list as well, but maybe I'm wrong. You'll see sometimes they're named weird, like this one is Royal Strike Chain Lightning, that one is Phoenix Strike. Bale Coldmaker, and some of the names on these are just silly. This one I'm pretty sure is Fissure, although I don't know 100%, but it's called Eruption Crack. Eruption Crack 1 and Eruption Crack 2 apparently has a 5-frame next hit delay. Volcano also apparently interferes with itself, so Volcano has Volcano Small Fire 5, and it also has Volcano, which is a 10 next hit delay. So not only was Volcano interfering with Eruption, the Fissure skill Eruption, it was also interfering with itself. So it had a fire and it had a damage, and the fire and the damage apparently couldn't do at the same time. We're going to test and see if maybe the fire and the damage can actually output at the same time now, but at the very least, Volcano and Eruption Crack can actually exist at the same time now, which is certainly very nice. And there's other skills too, like for instance the Amazon. This one isn't really so much for, what's the term I'm looking for? For the Amazon herself as it is for her group play element. So if you're an Amazon and you're spamming multi-shot, which or strafe, which is what Amazons generally do if you're a boson, you will spam multi-shot and strafe. Any other next hit delay event, any of them, like literally all of them, could interfere with your damage output. So if you were in a group with 7 other players and maybe you had like a Tornado Volcano or Twister Druid, or you had like a Necromancer spamming Poison Novas, or you had a Sorceress spamming Chain Lightning Nova or Frost Nova, or you had an Assassin who was spamming any of these abilities, it would lower your damage output severely. So every single time a monster was under a next hit delay event, your multi-shot and strafe would be nerfed in damage because you would not touch that target. And now the Amazon is going to see a considerable increase in her damage output when she's in group play. So when you're actually with a big group and they're firing all these next hit delay events, multi-shot and strafe are no longer going to get interfered with like they were in the past, which is absolutely freaking great. This next hit delay change is absolutely massive, by the way. It also has PvP connotations. So if you guys are unaware, in PvP, this could also be an issue. So say, for instance, you were a Druid, and you smacked a target with Tornado, right? Well, the target is now immune to all next hit delay events for 1 second. So in PvP, this becomes an issue because certain abilities apply such a large next hit delay to the target that it can essentially make them immortal versus next hit delay effects until that next hit delay timer depletes. Well, no more. So in PvP, this is going to change the dynamic completely. So all the next hit delay events are going to be able to stack on you, which means that a Druid who is spamming Tornadoes can also spam Twisters and hit you with both. A Sorceress can spam Chain Lightning and Nova and Frost Nova and not have to worry about the fact that the monster may have been just recently hit by a tornado. An Assassin can spam Shockweb and not have to worry about Shockweb putting the person into a next hit delay event. In fact, I imagine that you could even use this in a very cheesy way, as you could have like a friend who's also PvPing with you with like level 1 Shockweb, and he could just spam level 1 Shockwebs on the ground, which would lock you into a 25 frame next hit delay protection. But that's no longer possible either, so that cheesy route is now gone. I'm actually kind of interested to see how this would change PvP, but I'm also interested to see how this is going to change the monsters. I feel like we're going to notice, like when you're playing the game and you're actually fighting the monsters, and you get to those specific monsters that dish out large amounts of next hit delay damage. I think we're going to notice a considerable damage bump when the monsters no longer have that next hit delay problem of being able to hit us. I can't really even like express how massive this change is and how much this is going to better the game as a whole. And what I mean by better the game is it's going to, number one, make the game harder. Number two, it's going to make multiplayer easier. So what this means is that in general, up till this point, when you played with other players, it was actually more difficult to output damage sometimes in multiplayer events because of the next hit delay issues, especially certain classes like the Amazon and whatnot had it the worst, because if you were playing with a lot of other next hit delay characters, it would actually cause your damage output to feel really bad. PvP is going to change because of this. Quite a few builds are going to be more viable because of this. So I'm actually kind of excited about the Fire Druid, because the Fire Druid build is going to be more viable. The Elemental Hurricane Druid is going to be more viable because you'll be able to spam Tornado and Twister at the same time. The Trap Assassin will be able to use her Shockweb more and not have to worry about it interfering with other damage types, especially if you were utilizing, say, like a Fire Assassin, because Shockweb and I'm trying to remember if it used to they reconfigured this a little bit a while back, and I know Fire Blast has a strong effect on Shockweb, yes, and Shockweb has yes, the two of them are synergized with each other. And then when you build Wake of Fire, you also build Fire Blast, so you usually end up with Shockweb anyway. especially if you want to get the increased damage to the fire blast. So you'd be able to use shockweb and wake of fire at the same time, so just additional damage output, which certainly wouldn't be terrible. Also, if you were a lightning assassin, you could still use shockweb and not interfere with other abilities. So shockweb has such a large next hit delay on it right now that utilizing shockweb within a group was actually like straight up nerfing your friend's damage, which was absolutely terrible. Trying to think if there's anything else we can go over here. I really feel like we need to test this stuff. I think that's the most important thing. I think this is probably one of the biggest changes, though, and we should probably demonstrate this, and this is the Phoenix Strike. So in the past, I've done considerable testing on the next hit delay issues, and the optimal setup before was Phoenix Strike charge 2, Blades of Ice, Tiger, Cobra. But now that the change has gone into effect, the optimal damage output is actually going to be Phoenix Strike 2, Blades of Ice, and Claws of Thunder with Tiger Strike or Cobra. And this is going to offer some pretty insane damage output. Let me see if I can actually show you guys how this would work real quick. So the optimal damage output would look something like this. So let's grab our charges. Now, as of right now, Claws of Thunder and Phoenix Strike are still interfering with each other. So as pretty as this is, as beautiful as it looks, it doesn't do very much damage. However, with the patch changes, we will be seeing a considerable bump in damage for using Claws of Thunder. How much of a bump in damage are we talking about? Well, I've actually already calculated this out, so let me bring this up on the screen for you. So before the changes, the optimal damage setup was something like 17,429 damage per attack, with a total damage output of about 108,931 damage per second. With the changes in place, if my numbers are correct, we're looking at about nearly 30,000 damage per attack and about 186,850 per second. The other important thing to keep in note here is that Claws of Thunder is absolutely insane in the way that it damages. It does a lot of freaking AoE damage in a very short proximity. 2 charges get you Nova. This entire circle is a death zone. 3 charges get you the charged bolts. The charged bolts used to interfere with the Nova, as well as the Nova interfering with the charged bolts, which meant that most of the time you didn't get the full damage output of the skill. But between the Nova and the charged bolts, the skill has incredible coverage. Absolutely just thick boy coverage. And since they will no longer be interfering with each other, the 4,823 damage from the Nova can actually stack with the 7,644 damage from the charged bolt, and, believe it or not, it can also stack with charge 2 of Chain Lightning, which means that you can now have all 3 lightning attacks at the same time stacking on top of each other, which is just going to make for the most ridiculous field of death that you've ever seen. So Mosaic's in, and honestly, everybody who has a next hit delay ability, all the classes that have next hit delay abilities, are going to see a considerable bump or just increase in damage output from this. Not only when you're playing by yourself, but also when you're in a group, you're going to notice the damage increase. And I'm kind of excited to see some of these maybe lesser used builds kind of flourish. I do feel like the Volcano Fissure has been a little bit of the red-headed stepchild of the family, and Volcano Fissure definitely is going to be a hell of a lot better in the current patch. The Mosaic Sin is going to see some pretty darn good improvements. The freaking Hurricane Druid is going to see some really nice good improvements. The Amazon in group play is going to see very good improvements. Overall, I think it's a very good change, but I am very, very interested to get my hands on it and play around with these patch notes. Obviously, these are not the full patch notes. We don't have the full patch notes yet, so those will probably be coming... I want to say, my guess is Tuesday, but now that they're leaking out small little bits of the patch notes here and there, I'm actually kind of curious to see what else they have in store for us, or maybe if they're going to be leaking out any other little tidbits of patch notes here and there. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when we're just talking about next hit delay for like 30 minutes. And as always, keep watching. Alright, so that's the video. I'm going to go ahead and upload that real quick. That's going to lag out the stream, by the way, so I'm letting you guys know in advance. When I upload videos, it always lags out the stream. Don't worry about it. It'll stop as soon as the video finishes uploading, and honestly, they upload really fast, so... let's get this one uploaded, so 428, bam. I'm actually really curious to see what these full patch notes are. We only have the little tidbitliest little doojank. That's all we've got right now. I mean, we could pull up Lucky Luciano's video, and I'd like to pull his up and see maybe if there's anything else in his video that we could potentially, like, harvest for data. I'm not entirely 100% sure, but let's just go ahead and pull it up, and we'll look.
Hey everyone, Lucky here. Welcome to my channel.
That's right. Welcome to the channel.
Hey.
Alright, so this is Lucky Luciano's video here, and he reveals the patch notes slowly. He also talks about this post, which is a blue post. And I was talking about this the other day. So they said patch notes will hit a few days prior to the new season along with the patch. As for the start date, we are trying to build out some wiggle room between all the Diablo games, between D2, D3, D4 in terms of seasons, so that there is an overlap. They're basically, what they're trying to do is they're trying to actually make it so that, let me take the patch notes off the screen here. They're trying to actually make it so that, like, we're not constantly having to choose between all of the patch notes, if that makes sense, or the seasons. So they don't want us to have to constantly have to choose between every single season that we're going to participate in. And I'm fine with that. Like, I'm fine with being able to have to, you know, like, I can play all of them. I would rather play all of them than have to choose between them, if that makes sense. And not really a whole lot of information there, other than that the patch notes will hit a few days prior to the new season. And I actually checked this, by the way. So what we're looking at season-wide is, if the patch is on the if the game launches, the season launches on the 4th, which is what they say, then we're probably looking at the 2nd. So probably Tuesday. It's probably going to be on May the 2nd. So for you guys who are waiting for the patch notes, I would keep your eyes open on May the 2nd. Although then we have him leaking out information here. So obviously we talk about the additional character slots, which is great, and then the next hit delay changes. And then I think for the most part, he pretty much just goes over like how those next hit delay changes could potentially change the game. And that's what we've been talking about as well, like this entire time, is like how this change is going to kind of drastically affect the overall damage output of like the skills and how they work. And he's talking about the fissure here, the volcano, then of course we've got the blinding light of Jesus over here, which we were just talking about as well. Even Warcry, believe it or not, has a next hit delay, which is, for you Warcry barbarians, you may have noticed this because you can't really attack but so fast with Warcry. I really just wanted to see if he had any other information from the developers, and it does not look like he has any other information. So pretty much just him going over all the same beautiful doojanks that we were going over earlier. However, I am still extremely curious if there's any other patch note information that may be floating around out there. And let's see here. Let's go to hashtag D2R. I know this is going to be blinding. My apologies. Let's see if there's anything else posted. Blizzard has announced the May 4th start date, which was revealed in the Diablo developer live stream, and that's Wowhead. Nothing really going on there. Just a bunch of doojanks here and there. And that's like way back. That's from like patch 2.6. We want hashtag Diablo 2. That's what we want. I both love and hate how they do this with the community. Like I like it. I'm not gonna lie. I do enjoy that they get the community involved in putting out the patch notes and things like that. But the problem with it is that it also invariably means that finding the information can sometimes be a little difficult. So this is Lucky Luciano's post right here. That's what originally brought me to it in the first place, by the way. Go ahead and give him a heart. Increase the visibility of that. I don't see anything else at the moment. So we're going to have to keep our eyes open, basically is what's going on. We're going to have to keep our eyes open, and we're going to have to look for this information. So as I get it, as I find it, I will bring it to you guys' attention. This particular change, though, is pretty amazing. It's a very small change, but it is a change that fixes so many things across the board. And I think it's going to be an absolutely 100% positive change. Not only just in making the monsters more difficult, but also in making more builds more viable, and also changing up the way that PvP works as well, which is also kind of interesting, and making group play more friendly as far as like these particular classes go. So if you guys are unaware, because of the way this next hit delay system works, certain classes just had it easier in group play than others. And I feel like this is worth talking about, at least for right now. So let's pull the next hit delay page back up. Notice the Paladin absent from this list, right? So the Paladin, out of all classes, had basically 0 next hit delay abilities, and the only one that he had, the only one that the Paladin had, was taken away, and that was Holy Bolt. So Holy Bolt is no longer on the next hit delay list because it was taken out in one of the patches. The Paladin never had any issues in group play because there were literally no issues for next hit delay with that. Another character that had very little next hit delay problems was the Necromancer. With the exception of Poison Nova and Teeth, they have very few next hit delay abilities, and so in group play they were more often than not unhindered. Except for the Poison Nova Necromancer, which of course is hindered in group play. The Barbarian really doesn't have a lot of his physical abilities on this list. You'll notice that Battle Orders, Battle Command, Warcry, Battle Cry, they're not really like actual damaging abilities, with the exception of Warcry, which I'm pretty sure is the one that actually hits everything. In that little tiny itty bitty radius, by the way. And then on top of that, the Assassin had a lot of issues. So the Assassin is going to see major buffs. I'm really interested to see how the Amazon changes in group play, because I do feel like the Amazon is going to have some pretty serious changes as far as her group play mechanics. She is definitely going to see probably one of the craziest buffs from group play, because she's not going to get her damage interfered with by everything like she currently does, which is rather unfortunate. Um, Looks like Macro Bioboy has a video on mosaic buffs. I just want to check and see if these are the same changes for Lucky Luciano. They are the same changes for Lucky Luciano. So nothing new to be garnered from him. He is a Diablo partner, so I was checking to see if perhaps his video has maybe he had another little tidbit of the patch notes. As you can see, also Chain Lightning. Chain Lightning is a big one. So Chain Lightning actually does some pretty good damage. It also interferes with itself, which is a big issue. But one of the biggest issues, I think, with Chain Lightning is that it gets interfered with by everything else. So Chain Lightning should see some pretty significant buffs on the Sorceress. So if you're a big fan of the Sorceress for Chain Lightning, you may have a lot of fun with that. The Sorceress with the Nova and the Frost Nova builds is also going to see a pretty nice a buff as well. So you won't have a lot of your Nova damage interfered with. Nova is one of those skills, though, that hits everything nearby, though. So I feel like Nova was probably the one interfering with other things, as opposed to Nova being interfered with, if you get my drift. So Nova hits everything within that circle, and it has a next hit delay of 4, and Sorceresses would spam it, which means that during the time the Sorceress is spamming her skills, more often than not, nobody else could hit that target with any next hit delay events, because the Sorceress basically had them locked in a next hit delay, which is good for the Sorceress, but it's better for everybody else. So every time you see a Nova Sorceress in a group, you don't have to worry about them interfering with all the next hit delay stuff. A really good example of this is, let's say you had a Nova Sorceress in the middle of a group of monsters spamming Nova, okay? And let's say you also had an Amazon spamming multi-shot, all right? So the Amazon is trying to hit things with multi-shot while the Sorceress is hitting everything in that circle with Nova. The Amazon is probably not going to be able to hit anything within the Nova circle, which means that the Sorceress is essentially completely locking the Amazon out of damage. But now that's no longer going to occur. So the Amazon will no longer be locked out of damage by the Sorceress, and the Sorceress will no longer be locked out of damage by the Amazon, and so forth and so on, which means we're going to see a lot of really nice, combinations going on here. So a monster getting hit by multi-shot, Nova, Twister, Tornado, Volcano, Fissure, and it's going to happen all at the same time, because all of the abilities will be able to hit the monsters at the same time, whereas before they couldn't. It's pretty damn cool. What do you guys think about it? Like, this is a live stream, right? What do you guys think about it? Let's hop through the comments here. I know I might have been ignoring you for a little while, but let's see here. We got a lot of people asking, wasn't there a cast canceling bug used in PvP? I mean, that's why I think that this is going to affect PvP. I talked about that a lot. And yes, I do have a Street Fighter shirt. My girlfriend actually got this for me when we first got together. She was really excited about it. And, I mean, I do like Street Fighter. I just suck at it. She's much better at Street Fighter than I am, I'm going to be perfectly honest. So the Gloams are lightning, not chain lightning. So the Gloams shouldn't have seen a buff, no. Lightning was actually always broken OP in that way. You could get hit by multiple lightning attacks at the same time. Gloams, I don't think, ever had any kind of next hit delay on their attacks. So lightning and chain lightning are two different abilities. And lightning doesn't have a next hit delay where chain lightning does. Do we have any nerfs? As far as I can see, there's no nerfs at the moment. The next hit delay changes look like a buff across the board. The main thing that I would say about the next hit delay The next thing, oh my god, I lost my train of thought. Somebody asked me, one of my coworkers asked me a question. The main thing that could be considered a little bit of a nerf is the damage output from the monsters. So Bale's going to hit a lot harder. I'm going to tell you this right now. Bale's going to hit a lot harder. So Bale has multiple next hit delay events. He has Inferno. He has Nova. He has the Cold Maker. He has the Cold Trail. All of these are under a 4-frame next hit delay, which means that if he uses any of the abilities in concert, like back to back to back, before there was a chance they could have gotten like canceled out by each other. Especially since you have two Bales. So for instance, when he makes his clone and both of them shoot you at the same time, you only ever get hit by one of the effects because they're under next hit delay. But when there's two Bales and they're both firing their ice attack at you now, or say, let's say one uses the ice attack and one uses the Inferno, they're not going to interfere with each other. They're actually going to both hit you now. So having a clone up is going to be even more deadly now than it was before. It could also affect Uber Diablo, Uber Mephisto, Uber Bale, and Pandemonium Diablo in the Uber Tristram, because Mephisto can make a clone there as well, and he does a lot more damage in Uber Tristram. And so Mephisto, Bale, and Pandemonium Diablo are going to get a little bit of a buff here. Diablo also has a next hit delay event in here, which is... Where is it? Diablo. It says Diablo Fire or something like that. Hold on. Let me just search for it. There it is. It's Diab Fire. So his fire has a next hit delay of 4 as well. And Mephisto's attacks too. I believe Meph is on here. Meph Frost Nova. Is there more than one? I think it's just one. So Mephisto's attack, Diablo's attack, and Bale's attack would all interfere with each other when you were in Uber Tristram. They would all interfere. So like if Diablo had just used his fire and Mephisto had just used his cold attack, the two attacks wouldn't hit at the same time. Only one of the two would land. But now if you're doing Uber Tristram and you fight all the Ubers together, and they all hit you at the same time with an ability, they're all actually going to hit you now. And then, of course, also the fact that Bale can multiply and he can actually use 2 abilities at the same time. Now, as far as I understand it, the same ability will still interfere with itself. So, for instance, if both clones were to use Nova at the same time, only one Nova should hit. But if Bale uses a Nova and then the other Bale uses the Inferno, they're both going to hit at the same time. So he's going to be able to stack multiple different effects on you. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. I'm excited to see how the changes work. The Viper Fire Cloud also is on the list, which is kind of nasty. That one's always been nasty. They fixed it though recently, but it's still kind of nasty. I'm pretty sure that my beautiful lady is home, and that's why Kubus is spinning in circles in the corner. I'm curious what this is right here. Wake of Destruction Maker and Wake of Destruction. Why are there 2 different Wake of Destructions on the list? According to the Assassin, it says Wake of Fire has a 4-frame delay, and we have Wake of Destruction here with a 4-frame delay. So I'm assuming that Wake of Destruction is probably Wake of Fire. But then it says Wake of Destruction Maker and Wake of Destruction, which means there's 2 different events going on for Wake of Destruction, not just one. I'm assuming if it means the Maker, it's talking about the actual trap. Does the trap itself do damage? That seems rather weird. Mosaic is definitely buffed, Binary Shrub, yes. The removal of the next hit delay going off between the 2 abilities has definitely buffed Mosaic considerably. So not only has the Assassin seen considerable buffs with this patch, but also the Druid, the Amazon, I guess technically the Sorceress as well has seen some pretty significant buffs from this. But the Assassin is going to see the most buffs from this because Claws of Thunder and Phoenix Strike are their 2 biggest martial arts skills that dish out the most damage. And those are the two that are going to be most greatly affected by this. Shockweb, Blade Sentinel, and Wake of Fire are also on that list, though. And Shockweb is a really big one here because Shockweb has a 25 frame next hit delay, and it's terrible. So 25 frames is a full second. So whenever you touch anything with Shockweb in the current patch, it's basically immune to all damage from next hit delay events. So if you touch a monster with Shockweb, everything on this list cannot touch the target for a full second. This entire list, everything on this list cannot touch it for a full second. But now, everything can touch it. So everything can touch the monster with even if you're using Shockweb on it, which is absolutely great. So you could have Blade Sentinel and Shockwave going at the same time. You could have Wake of Fire and Shockweb going at the same time. You could have freaking Claws of Thunder and Shockweb going at the same time. It's just going to sit there and it's going to pulse out its damage, and it's not going to interfere with anything anymore. Blade Assassin can be viable as a build. Blade Assassin is honestly really powerful. It always has been a very powerful build. But ever since they patched it back in like 2.4 or 2.5, it's even better than it was before. But this will actually give Blade Sentinel a buff as well. So Blade Sentinel will now no longer interfere with other abilities, which is nice. It's not exactly specifically a buff to the Blade Fury Sin, though, because the Blade Fury Sin never had any next hit delay complications between her skills. But using Blade Sentinel in multiplayer would interfere with other people's stuff, but now it won't anymore, so you won't have to worry about your Blade Sentinel interfering with other people's damage types or damage output. But if you want to build a Blade Fury Sin, they've always been very fun. In fact, they're even better now. It's a very, very fun build indeed. I'm actually very interested in making a freaking Volcano Druid now. I want to make a Volcano Druid. I think I've made up my mind. I have made up my mind. My Druid for, or my pick for Season 4 at this particular point, unless there's some other ridiculously amazing changes within the patch notes, my pick for Season 4 is going to be a Volcano Druid. I'm gonna do a Volcano Fissure Druid, and we're gonna have some fun with that. We'll see. I'm just like going over this list and I'm trying to like feel out how things will change. As you can see here, we've got Bale, Taunt, Lightning Trail, Bale, Taunt, Lightning. We've got Bale, Cold Trail, Baled Cold Maker. We've got Bale Nova, Bale Inferno. So all of Bale's abilities, all of them are on next hit delay. And all of them could potentially interfere with each other. In fact, the Lightning and the Lightning Trail have a next hit delay of 10, which this is a serious buff for Bale. Bale is going to be a lot harder to kill with this patch. I can almost guarantee it. And Uber Bale is going to be even harder to kill. Because he's going to be able to stack effects on you. Like, he's going to be able to throw out his Lightning and then throw out his Cold and then throw out his Nova all at the same time, and there's no chance that any of them are going to cancel out on you. So they're going to all hit you at the same time, especially if he's got two Bales running and he's spamming effects. It's gonna look absolutely silly. It's honestly kind of gonna be like a freaking Mosaic Sin. He's gonna hit you with all the effects at the same time, and it's gonna be very ouchy. It's gonna be very ouchy. Why does this say Chain Lightning 2? Don't we have Chain Lightning already on here? I was looking at that earlier. Chain Lightning Charge Up, which is Phoenix Strike. Then we've got Chain Lightning 2. And we've got Lightning Strike. So that's interesting. So Lightning Strike and Chain Lightning were both on a 4-frame hit delay. So, like, let's say, for instance, you had a Lightning Strike and a Chain Lightning Sorceress in the same group. Chain Lightning and Lightning Strike actually would not stack. According to this change, Chain Lightning and Lightning Strike will actually stack now together. This is also a buff for the Lightning Amazon. Let me pull up my Amazon real quick. I think this will be fun. So I actually built a lightning Amazon this season. Very, very powerful lightning Amazon. Was able to just annihilate stuff. But one of the things that I noticed was that Infinity has a problem with it. All right. Anyway, what I was talking about is on the actual Infinity. If you've ever built this build before, there is a 50% chance to cast level 20 Chain Lightning on the actual skill. So what this means is that as you're running around and you're utilizing your Lightning Strike on your Amazon, there is a chance that the Chain Lightning comes out, and the Chain Lightning will actually cancel the damage from Lightning Strike. Which is rather unfortunate, and it does cause for some damage problems. So, like, if I run out here and I lightning strike, the lightning is going to go from target to target, and it's going to bounce around, right? But the problem is that because Infinity has that 50% chain lightning on it, the chain lightning was under next hit delay, and the lightning strike was also under next hit delay. So the two abilities would interfere with each other and cause basically my higher damage ability, which is the lightning strike, to dish out less damage. So with this patch, chain lightning and lightning strike, which are two separate next hit delay events, should no longer interfere with each other, which is freaking great. So that's going to be a damage bump for this particular build too. Not that she needed a damage bump because her damage was already insane, but it is a damage bump for her nonetheless. This also means that proccing effects are going to be affected by this, and I just realized this, is that if you run multiple proccing effects that have next hit delay on them, this could also potentially help you out as well. So, back to another character that I've created that is now changed by this build. I have a Hurricane Wolf. His name is Gilbert, I believe. Is he still up here? I didn't delete him, did I? Where is Gilbert? There you are, Gilbert. You want the official patch notes? There's no official patch notes. This is a deliberate patch leak. All right, and it's right here. If you guys want to like screenshot it or something, or do whatever you want to do, go ahead. I'll leave it up on the screen for a little bit while I eat some M&Ms. Alright, that's all you get. That's all you get. Alright, let's take a look at my my Druid ad here. And I'm going to show you how this Druid changes as well. So this Druid is specifically a Druid that is based around proccing effects, okay? And this is what I'm talking about, that this next hit delay change will actually change proccing effects. So he uses Carrion Winds, which have a level 13 Twister on them. He actually uses 2 Carrion Winds. The Twisters actually interfere with the tornado that comes from the Stormlash, all right? He also has Twisters that come out of the Rain Armor as well. Now, the Twisters will interfere with themselves, but they also interfere with the tornadoes, which makes this damage output not as good as it could be. But with the patch, because the Twisters will now no longer interfere with the tornado, my boy Hurricane Wolf right here has actually gotten quite a buff, and my Hurricane Wolf build is looking even sexier now than it was before. Of course, for some reason I respec'd him to a Hurricane Bear. I don't really know why I did that. But basically, when I go out here and attack, what you'll notice is I actually spew tornadoes and hurricanes all over the place. I find it's a little bit easier to see in classic graphics. As you can see, I'm just spraying twisters all over the place, basically. And the twisters are dishing out a pretty significant amount of damage. But this change is actually going to be a considerable buff to this character, just simply because the two abilities, the Tornado and the Twister, are no longer going to interfere with each other. So I'll get full damage output from both of them, which is definitely very nice. There's some other specific builds that I could think of that could definitely see some bonuses from this, especially proccing effects. Most notably is the Carrion Wind itself. So if you've ever worked a Carrion Wind into your builds, the Twister effect from the Carrion Winds carries that 4-frame next hit delay and can sometimes interfere with your own next hit delay skills. So you don't have to be in fear of that interfering with things anymore. Also, the Poison Nova that's on Carrion Wind, which is the 10% chance to cast Poison Nova when struck. Poison Nova also has a 4-frame next hit delay and also causes issues sometimes. So items like this that have proccing effects that are next hit delay issues are specifically better now as a result of this patch change. So we are definitely going to see a big bump in usefulness of items specifically that have next hit delay event triggers, especially among other classes that have next hit delay triggers that wouldn't necessarily want those lower abilities interfering with their higher abilities. Like this has a 4% chance to cast level 5 Tornado. Tornado has a 25 frame hit delay, a full second. And this full second would be a detriment to another class that is relying on next hit delay stuff. Like, for instance, I probably wouldn't use Carrion Wind on an Amazon right now because the Twisters and the Poison Nova could interfere with my multi-shot or my strafe. But with the patch changes, I don't have to worry about that anymore. So a Carrion Wind is actually going to be a absolutely excellent choice on a strafe Zon or a multi-shot Zon because you don't have to worry about those Twisters messing up your damage output anymore. And that's just like one example out of probably hundreds that we could potentially look at in terms of next hit delay, like chance to cast items. I'm trying to think of more off the top of my head, but I mean anything with Nova, anything with Frost Nova. That's actually a good one. Let me see if I've got some of that sitting on my my boy over here. I believe I have some Frost Nova like boots, right? So, I mean, a pretty common modifier that a lot of people will find on equipment is chance to cast Frost Nova or chance to cast Nova, right? Chance to cast Frost Nova and chance to cast Nova are like really common. And I would be surprised if I don't have at least one item in here with a chance to cast Nova on them. Because that's how frickin' common it is. But look at me not frickin' have one. Come on. Come on. I really don't have any chance to cast Novas. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Oh, there we go. 10% chance to cast level 3 Nova when struck. Alright? So, again, going back to what we're talking about. If next hit delay is an issue, and you're a character that uses next hit delay abilities, having Nova go off means that nothing can be touched during the next hit delay issue with Nova. So, having Nova go off at random intervals on any character that has next hit delay problems would have been a bad thing. Frost Nova, Nova, Chain Lightning, you know, like any of those abilities that spam out and come from proccing effects. But we're going to see a noticeable decrease in, you know, any of that, and an increase in damage output in using these particular items. So they're going to be a good addition. By the way, Frost Nova is absolutely excellent to have on a piece of equipment, but yes, it does interfere with stuff. The reason why Frost Nova works so well is because it chills everything. So like in a defensive scenario, let's say you have a 10% chance to cast level 3 Frost Nova. It comes out, it chills everything, and it helps you tremendously because it slows everything down. But like let's say you were a Warcry Barbarian. A Warcry Barbarian is a good choice. So in the Warcry Barbarian land, you've got this ability that hits everything around you in a circle, much the same way that Nova does, right? So very, very similar to the way that Nova does. Let me pull up my solo self-found P8 Barbarian here. So this particular ability will hit everything around you in a circle, right? It has to be cast at close range. So if you ever had any item on you that had chance to cast Nova or chance to cast Frost Nova, and you get hit and it casts, then it's going to cancel out the damage of that particular Warcry when Nova casts. So Nova will cast, it'll hit everything, and the next Warcry that you cast, like exactly around the same time that the Nova goes off, would completely cancel out the Warcry damage. And depending on how many times the Nova procs, which sometimes I've actually seen it proc multiple times, it could potentially cancel out a large percentage of your Warcry damage, which would be rather unfortunate. Breath of the Dying should be better as well. So let me look up Breath of the Dying real quick. I should have one. Convictor. Convictor should have a Breath of the Dying. Yes, so Warcry also was essentially preventing anyone else with next hit delay events from damaging that target as well. So Breath of the Dying has a 50% chance to cast level 20 Poison Nova when you kill an enemy. And as we know, Poison Nova also has a next hit delay of 4. And oftentimes, you'd be running around on your freaking Paladin, and I don't seem to have equipment for this guy, but let me just go ahead and throw some stuff on real quick. You'd be running around on your Paladin killing stuff, and you'd have like multiple freaking Poison Novas going off, just like all over the place. And every single one of those Novas can potentially interfere with your damage if you have other next hit delay events, and other people's damage if they have next hit delay events. So not a good thing, obviously. So that also is going to beef up Breath of the Dying, because now the Poison Nova will no longer interfere with other next hit delay events either. I'm trying to think of like all the various next hit delay events. There's also a 15% chance to cast Poison Nova on Andariel's Visage, so that will no longer interfere with other next hit delay events. And that's a pretty common one that you have on Mercenaries. Very common. Like what is that? Like the most popular mercenary helmet, pretty much like bar none at this particular point. Especially if you find a nice ethereal one, throw that on your mercenary, socket it with a nice little jewel, and you've got yourself one of the sexiest helmets in the game, right? And that one was interfering with everything. So if you were using that on a fire druid, if you were using that on a hurricane druid, if you were using that on a Warcry Barbarian, if you were using that on any of the classes that had next hit delay problems, it was interfering with your own damage problems. Yes, you will be able to stack Fissure and Volcano now, although there is some contention whether or not you can stack the damage from Volcano with itself. So they changed the assassin skills to work separately from each other. So Charge 1 and Charge 2 don't interfere with each other anymore. So like Claws of Thunder has a Nova and it has a Charged Bolt, and the two effects can actually stack now. But Volcano has multiple next hit delay events, and apparently so does Fissure. So when you look up Volcano, you see that it says Volcano 10, which is the actual projectile, and then it also says Volcano Small Fire 5. So apparently Volcano has been interfering with itself as well. So the Volcano 10 is actually causing the Volcano 5 fire to not do damage. Also, apparently the Fissure interferes with itself as well. So Fissure has the Crack 1 and Crack 2, which, like I said, my mom always told me you only needed one crack, but, you know, whatever. Apparently, Fissure is also interfering with itself. As far as we can tell right now, Volcano will no longer interfere with Fissure, and Fissure will no longer interfere with Volcano, but Fissure will still interfere with itself, and Volcano will still interfere with itself. It's going to require some further testing. We're not entirely sure 100% of which way this is going to go, but it's definitely one of those weird things where there's multiple next hit delay events within the same skill that we need to figure out what the hell is going on there. But it's definitely a buff for the Volcano Druid. So the Volcano Druid can definitely put the Fissures and the Volcano on the target at the same time now and dish out both damages at the same time instead of separate. But there's still going to be some kind of like overlap there between like the apparently the Volcano projectiles and the Volcano fire apparently interfering with each other. And apparently the Fissure interferes with itself, which is also really weird. I'm trying to think if there's any other next hit delay, like, doojanks going on here. One thing that I was thinking of is the mercenaries. So the mercenaries have gotten a buff from this as well. Let me pull up just anybody. It doesn't really matter who. And let's go take a look at the Act 3 mercenaries. I'm not exactly sure if any of them have changed. I can't remember how many next hit delay abilities those guys have. I know Glacial Spike is not on the next hit delay. Static Field's not on the next hit delay.
Hello? Well, greetings.
Let's take a look at them real quick. So Firebolt, no. Fire Blast, no. Or Fireball, no. Enchant, no. So there's no change there. Charge Bolt doesn't have next hit delay. Lightning doesn't have next hit delay. Static Field doesn't have next hit delay. Glacial Spike doesn't, and Ice Blast doesn't. I'm not sure about Chilling Armor, but I don't think that one has it either. So no change for the Act 3 Mercenary whatsoever. None of those abilities that they have next hit delay on them. So there's no update for that. I don't think the Act 5 Mercenary changes. It does affect multi-shot and teeth in the way that they will no longer be interfered with by other abilities, but it doesn't let you, like, shotgun them, if that's what you're asking, Sean. So if you're an Amazon and you're firing multi-shot and somebody else is firing a next hit delay ability, it's not going to interfere with yours, but you still won't be able to, like, stack multiple multi-shot hits on a target. I do believe Battle Cry is affected by this, but I don't really know if that even matters at all. It's just a debuff, so that's not really going to have much of a change there. And then the Act 1 Amazon, none of her abilities were on next hit delay anyway. As I said, Amazon. The Act 1 Rogue, none of her abilities were on next hit delay anyway, so the Act 1 Rogue won't change. So none of the mercenaries are really affected. A minor change on the Act 5 Mercenary. They're going to stay pretty much the same. It's mainly going to affect the equipment that you put on them, I think. I think that's the main thing. Hacks. Let's see what other characters I have on here. I actually kind of want to look at some of these other items. Let's take a look at the list, and then I can get an idea of which items might be affected. How about that? I mean, Lightning Strike is not something that you find on many items, so that one's not really a big deal. Chain Lightning is, though, so every single item that you've ever found that has Chain Lightning procs on it is going to be affected by this. Nova and Frost Nova, those are going to be affected, like all the proc items with Chain Lightning, Frost Nova, and Nova, as well as Poison Nova as a proc item. Poison Nova is pretty common as proc items as well, so that one's going to see some pretty nice changes. Twisters, you're going to see some pretty good changes between the Twister items, so like Carrion Wind, things like that. And Grimward, I didn't even know Grimward had a frickin' next hit delay, but I mean that's good. It's not really like the most popular skill, but it is nice to use. Multi-shot and strafe, it's definitely interesting, but doesn't have anything to do with proccing effects. Let's go through here and take a look at this. So we've got Nova and Chain Lightning. So this is what I was talking about earlier. See, we have Chain Lightning here, right? And then we also have... where is it? Chain Lightning 2, right here. So, for some reason or another, Chain Lightning doesn't have one. It has 2 next hit delay events, which is rather interesting. So, Chain Lightning was actually interfering even more than you would normally think, which is kind of weird. Shockwave also interferes, by the way. So, I know a lot of you Shockwave Druids love to stand there in a group and just spam your Shockwave and stun everything. But one of the things that you guys didn't realize was that as you were spamming your Shockwave over and over and over again, you were actually locking all the monsters in a next hit delay loop. Now that won't happen. So now you can spam your Shockwave to your heart's content, and you won't be locking the monsters in a next hit delay loop for, you know, other people. So everybody will be able to still deal damage to those monsters that has next hit delay effects. Like, for instance, if I was shooting Chain Lightning at the target, and you were shockwaving them to death, the two would actually stack together, which is definitely nice. There are no 2.7 patch notes, Cyclops. This is a 2.7 patch note leak. It is a leak of patch notes. They gave us a very small tidbit of information, and the small tidbit of information they gave us is like the tip of an iceberg, and like it changes pretty much everything about how the game actually functions. You're gonna see some pretty crazy changes from this particular one change. For those of you guys who are just joining and you want the information, there it is. That's all we have, by the way. That's it. That is the complete totalis of it. And this is not to be confused with the patch notes. This is not the patch notes. This is something else. This is a leak. This is a leak of the patch notes. It's like it's a teaser. The patch notes are still to come, and we're still going to get more information. This is just a teaser to make us be quiet, you know, because we've been pretty vocal. I don't know about you guys, but I've been pretty vocal, and other people have been pretty vocal about the fact that we haven't gotten patch notes for patch 2.7, and it's like, what is it? Like, we're like 6 days away from freaking patch 2.7 or a ladder. So we're like 6 days away from the ladder launch, and we still don't have notes. So I'm assuming that the reason why they did this was to like quell the you know the masses, as like a tranquilizer pill. They're like, here, have a little, you know, have a little pill and calm down, calm your tits. How does this affect multi-shot? It's going to affect it mainly in multiplayer, Sean. So for the most part, when it comes to multi-shot, you're just gonna see better damage output when in a group with other players. It's not going to increase the damage output when you're by yourself, unless you're interfering with yourself. If you're interfering with yourself, that's a different story. We were talking about ways that you could potentially interfere with your own damage output, like spamming Poison Nova, Nova, Frost Nova, things like that can potentially cause your attacks not to hit. So you will generally see a nice, more steady damage output, I guess would be the term. A more steady damage output. So it's not going to decrease when somebody else is hitting a target with another next hit delay ability. Yes, it's going to make team play more cohesive and just better in general, to be honest. You just did the Radamant quest and didn't get a book of skill? That's terrible. You should riot. You might have to kill him again. Unless you've already done it. If you already did it, you're not going to get a second book, sir. All right, well, we're going to be talking about this all day. I think I've gone over it in pretty extreme detail. I also have a video that's going to be posting on this. It's a much shorter video, obviously, than this one. But, you know, we're going to test this stuff out when the patch actually hits. But I'm going to be doing my solo self-found Barbarian run today. I finally made it to Nightmare difficulty, and we're about to get to Act 3, so you guys are more than welcome to join me on that. It's actually been really fun. And obviously, we'll be talking about this more during the solo self-found run, so if you want to join me for that, I would appreciate it. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when we're just yakking about next hit delay changes and patch changes. And keep watching.